So this is Lake of the Egypt?
Yeah, we're talking Lake of the Egypt, and unfortunately for us, it's Thursday right after a cold front.
Yeah.
Crystal clear skies. We've been told the lake's got pretty clear watercolor, which doesn't turn us on.
Uh-huh. We're up near the headwater at least, right?
Well, we're midway in the lake, and what I'm afraid of, I want to see how far we have to go and back us out here, and I'll turn the motor off.
Okay.
We'll probably just follow this shoreline right off the bat. It turns out, I can kill the motor. It turns out the channel, what there is of it, swings in close to this shore, goes into a cove. It'll tell us a couple things. First thing, it'll give us a clue as to what the watercolor looks like. This is fairly steep. We can see if there's any fingers, you know, popping off here. And then we can go into this cove and see if there's any darker watercolor. You know.
Okay.
We had quite a bit of rain last night. There's a possibility that maybe it isn't too bad.
This is Egyptian Hills Cove or Marina?
Yeah. And then we'll just keep right on going up this feeder all the way until we either lose the channel totally, we get weeded over, or it just gets so shallow that we think we're wasting our time, because we're still stuck with a after cold front condition. And frankly, I don't know how deep we're talking here. This is 20. We might have a channel here that's 30 feet, which would be terrific.
Okay.
Just a half mile upstream here, it looks like it's going to 15. And a day like today, I don't think, I mean, we
might not get a movement.
No, not at 15 feet, if that's what the channel is. So we're not going to go too far up here. Then, depending on what we find there's a couple other coves. If we have pretty good watercolor, we can go in each one of these coves and just see. Check out the watercolor. I mean,
okay.
It's not that big of an area. It's a, 2,500 acre lake?
Yeah, not too much.
And my guess would be we can break it down to 400 acres here, which, you know, I don't know about you, my experience, 400 acres in a day, 400 acres in a half a day, you can at least scout it out.
Yeah, okay.
So that's what we're going to be doing.
Good.
We'll be taking this north shoreline, just follow it around.
Okay, we'll check it. So you're going to explore a little bit first.
Explore a little bit because they won't let us fish by the docks.
Okay.
Otherwise, I'd put on a 500 or a 400 and I'd just slip on down here. But if we're supposed to stay away from the boat docks, then what I'm going to do first is go out, find out what the channel depth is, and just motor up. Now, if we go around this cove or this point, and there are no more boat docks, then we're going to put some lures on. We'll work the series.
Work that.
But we've got to find that out.
Okay. Well, what kind of depth do we have here?
Yeah, we're right about 20 feet, but it's a flat. There's a boat coming. Otherwise, I'm going to hit this other shore, and hopefully we're going to find out what the channel depth is here pretty quickly.
Okay.
Number 42.
Yeah.
We'll check it out because the channel, which we can't find much of the channel. If there is a channel, it's got a 1 foot dip in it, and that's
about
not much.
What, 20 feet down?
Yeah. Well, we're 18 feet here.
18.
It's in that range, but it comes over to this side here, and that shows that it's rock. Unfortunately, I think these little designators mean boat docks, and we're not allowed to fish where they've got a boat dock, which is a bunch of crap. But in any case, this side over here doesn't have it. The channel does swing over it, so that's what I'm going to check next.
Yeah, we'll go over and check that over then.
Now, the only problem I've got is if we get over here in the deep water that we've got 15 feet,
Yeah, it doesn't look like we can go much farther up here, or we're going to get in such a shallow channel area.
Now, if that is the case, the next structure situation we're going to look at is over here. There are no boat docks here. There is an old road. It shows at least 20 feet, so my guess would be we might have 25 or 30 feet. So if this doesn't work, I may swing in here just to see watercolor, but I have the feeling we're getting too shallow.
Let's check the watercolor too.
And then we'll pop back out there.
Okay, good. Okay, we're going to check the watercolor.
Yep. You still see it, Chase?
Yep, I can still see it.
Unfortunately, so can I.
How far is it going down?
I'd say we're about 4 feet right now.
4 or 5 is what they said it was.
Well, I'm telling you, I'd say right now about 5 feet, and I'm just starting to disappear. I'd say you can see it about 5 feet down.
5 to 6, okay.
Now, compare that with Crab Orchard, where about 2 feet down, 2.5 feet.
Right.
They disappear. I'd say this is, got twice the clarity.
Okay. Well, it's better than our natural lakes up north, but...
Well, also, we're already to the point where the depth is only like 18 feet.
Yeah.
So,
okay.
You can imagine what it's like by the dam where it's 50 feet.
I would imagine.
I don't know, some steep breaks. Now, I don't know what the water is out there. We're in 18 feet here. We see a chance that could be productive all the way around.
We're going to run this with a 500 over here.
We're going to run with a 500. My normal joke is Chase is going to run a 45-yard line, and I'm going to run a 20-yard line to get to the fish first.
Okay, sounds good.
The channel is out over there, but we're going to just basically the channel's straight out off the tip of that point.
Okay. And that's the steep shore.
We're just running the back here and all the way around the front.
Okay. So those rocks indicate there's something more below, farther below.
I suspect that more of them bounced into the bottom and just stopped right there. It'd be kind of coincidental. Now I'm running about 8 feet. I know I got a 500, but the weed line looked like it was out at least to 6. Up in front here is where the channel's at.
Okay.
And it looks pretty good. There's no weeds here. The watercolor, if you look at it, it's looking better.
Not too bad.
Some rocks. You'll be kicking the bottom here in a second. Somewhat staged. Chase just caught this a minute ago, and as soon as he brought it in the boat, it flipped off.
He fell off though. We wanted to show it was caught on a 500
but
though.
He actually caught him on a 500, and just a small little guy. But actually, in this lake, we're supposed to keep 2 of these, and then there's a slot, and then we're supposed to keep 4 of the bigger fish. So it's kind of an interesting slot limit. So regardless, we got a 500.
Got
just
a 500.
trolling the riprap or trolling the
Within 5 minutes, you got me on a fish.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. It's the quality.
It's the quality.
Or not the quantity. Same area, but we're going to continue on. I mean, that little guy doesn't represent a reason for us to stop and cast.
Just make a note that that's where we caught him, huh? So we're going back and covering the same.
There doesn't seem the weed line. There is no weed line here where there is on the side, but there's no weed line on the end here. That's kind of positive for us.
Okay.
So we'll be back to our 20 yards here in a second.
Okay.
I'm in 10 foot of water, and we're only a half a boat length or a boat length away from shore.
That's a pretty good rock situation, right?
Well, we're looking for winter and summer stuff. That's not too bad. Obviously, we got to find the deep water. The other side of this island or whatever this is had all kinds of weeds. This side's all clean. I kind of like this. Will you cut it out?
No, I got to get him on. See him back there?
Do that?
I'll zoom in on him back there.
Okay. Basically, we've been, what, about 5 minutes?
Yeah. Yeah.
And we're just using the 500s, as you can tell.
500s.
Just caught another one. Good looking little fish
Yeah.
here.
Healthy. They're pretty healthy looking.
Yeah, not too bad. That one we got off the point over there, this side is a lot steeper than the other side where we had the weed line.
So this would be more the winter?
We haven't found the deep water yet.
Yeah, that's
We've really
true.
only been here for like 5 minutes, so I do want to find where the deep water's at. But that side that we just came off of is steeper and cleaner than the other side. So so far, I'm kind of impressed.
Now let's take a look at the map on there.
Okay, when we first started, we came in here and worked around. There's weeds in this area over here.
Okay.
And it does give the impression that this is flatter. We came around this area here, and I'm not for sure, but Chase picked up a fish probably about right there.
Okay.
Again, in the shallows, no weeds. The weed line is non-existent there. Came around this point over here, and this is all rocky, which is nice. If there's any weeds, they break off at a foot.
Mm-hmm.
Came around here. This is kind of steep. Don't know how steep it is, but the water is at least 8 foot deep when we're half a boat length from shore. It's all nice ledge rock here. Chase picked up another fish over there.
That's where we picked up that last fish.
So you picked up one there and one there, all with the 500. I'm not even paying attention to speed. I don't know. I'm just going just enough to get the boat going.
3-4 mile an hour.
Yeah, 3-4. It's throwing up a wake. That's about it. I probably will start to speed it up a little bit as we get back in here, just so that I get a flavor for how fast should it be going. Okay. This is June. This water.
Yeah, sounds good.
This water's probably 80 degrees.
Yeah.
So.
Okay, so that's the point over there. We'll go.
Not quite as sharp a signal, so it's getting a little more mucky.
So you're just checking out the depth to see what kind of depth we got off of it.
So far, this is 15 feet. The further out I go, it's still 15, but on the flasher, the signal's getting narrower, so it's a little more mucky. As we get nearer the shore, the signal's getting sharper, and that shoreline is generally it's all rock there, and there's just a little bit of a wash there. Mm-hmm. That shoreline over there is pretty hard, so from a normal fishing point of view, this place has some potential.
Even though we just have about 15 feet off of it.
Yeah, we got 15 feet, and we're not when we're full boat length off of shore, we're 15 feet. The only negative I see right now, if this was 25 feet, I'd be a lot happier.
Yeah, because the depth would be.
Right, but the 25-foot water can be off the front of it. So we'll work this and keep working it out till we end up in the channel.
Okay, makes good. So now we're going to go to 400s, go back to the same shoreline?
Right, same shoreline. We'll use a 400. Knock the crab orchard mud off this one.
Okay.
Right, just tentatively right now, the weeds are out to about 8.
About 8. Okay. So we're going to try to keep right on the edge?
On this edge over here, when we come back, we'll have 6 to 9s, and I'll try to keep us 8 or 9. We'll probably get some weeds.
Okay.
When we get around the corner, there won't be any more weeds. And we should be able to get some good ideas of what that side looks like.
Get a little closer. Yeah.
That side sounds more promising.
Okay. Now, why do you say that sounds more promising?
Well, first off, you caught 2 fish there. Second off...
Yeah, that's a good reason.
Second off, this seems to be much more mucky. And we've got cleaner structure over there. Now, I could be wrong, but we're in a bay back here. We'll continue with it, but just tentatively from the first 2 lures, I'm getting a feeling that side's better.
Okay, this is kind of a...
Yeah, we're going to switch over here to there's a turtle right off in front of you there, Chase, to your right.
Okay. So now we're going to use the 6 to 9 to go back.
Yeah, using a 250, we'll both be running still about 20 yards. I'm going to try to keep us at about 8 feet.
Okay.
Looks like that's about the edge of the weed line.
Very likely straggler condition.
Well, I mean, we've got a pretty significant cold front. I mean, what, 3 tornadoes last night? So
right.
I'd say, and it's clear blue sky. There's not a cloud anywhere. As I told you before, I see dark shadows on everything, which means there's no moisture in the air.
Mm-hmm.
And so we may be very well in a straggler condition. So even while we're mapping, I'd be really pleased if we get into 2 or 3 fish in the same area, but it would be surprising. So right now what we're doing is we're coming back with the 6 to 9s. I'm still very close to shore. There's no more weeds. We're out of the weedy part. Okay, it looks like we might pick up some weeds on the flasher. You should start bumping the bottom. This is the shoreline.
Just taking bottom now.
Yeah.
So we're in the process of mapping this area.
Still mapping at 6 to 9, trying to see what we can get. And I'm back to my conclusions. I mean, I'm coming to them quickly here. I like this part of this point a lot better. This whole island here, I like it a lot better than the other side.
Okay.
And I thought I had one.
You like
nice
it
to prove it out by catching something fairly big.
Right. Are they gonna scoot down to deep water?
Well, we haven't found the actual deep water, but this is looking real good. It's clean. We picked up some small fish here, and you know what they were telling me. I mean, Terry told me that the fish want the ability to, when they feel danger, you know, one scoot of the tail and they're in deeper water. And we've got it. I mean,
this is sharp.
We're in 6 to 9 foot of water. We're
right next to the shore.
13 feet from the shoreline.
Yeah.
So
okay. A little different.
It's going to look a little odd because there's only a short trolling period, and then there's an outfall, but there's a little point coming off of it. So we're going to go out in deep water, swing in, come out, swing around the outfall, swing back in again. So it's going to look kind of like a little bit of an S, where in reality, if the outfall wasn't there, I'd probably continue pretty much straight across.
Right, but you're doing this to keep your lure in position.
Keep the lure in place, and the 6 to 9 foot water is pretty close to shore.
Okay.
Caught your fish here. So what I'm going to try to do is go over here, right where it shows that upside down 42.
Okay.
And because the guys on our trolling pass here, we'll wait them out. But what I'm going to do is come off perpendicular and see where the channel's at and how deep it is, right by that number 42.
Okay.
My guess would be if the fish are coming in, they're coming in from there.
From
the deep water,
from the
right?
Deep water,
yeah,
right
and they
up.
may be going left or right. We may have hit them on a scatter point where they went, where you caught yours over here.
Mm-hmm.
You may have come all the way over here. But in any case, I want to find that point and just see what kind of a break there is. I mean, this could be a great situation. We could have 25 feet here and it could break right in the channel.
Yeah.
If that's the case and we picked up 2 bass here on a cold front day, you know, we'd spend quite a bit of time here scoping this out. Okay.
You found the channel, right?
Right. We
now
marked the channel out there. We went into shore. We're just coming offshore. I wanted to see if there was a break in.
Now it's dropping.
It's dropping, and we picked up something just a minute ago at about 16 feet. Now, I didn't hear. I moved over. There you go. There, it's starting to break there.
Okay.
And watch. You think it's like, well, it's over. That's the channel. Nope. There she goes back down.
Oh yeah.
So we've got a break there, a break line, probably about 14 feet. There's some crap on the way down there. That's a rock. Oh, sorry about that. That's a rock.
Okay.
Now we're jumping into the channel. I mean, this is.
Yeah, and we're real close to shore. I mean.
Oh yeah. This is good.
If we look here, we're right up close to
good.
shore, coming out.
And in fact, we picked up fish in the shallows right here.
Mm-hmm.
This is pretty encouraging.
Something worth fishing.
Yeah, I mean, it's 18 or 19 feet. If it was 30 feet, I'd be tickled to death. But 18 to 19 feet, the watercolor here is even better than when we did that sample at the beginning of the video.
Yeah.
So the fact, I mean, I don't use this as an absolute, but the fact it is showing fish out there someplace. Now, if the lake's loaded with carp or something, those are carp, well, then we've wasted our time.
Something else, yeah.
It's not barren. We've caught fish. It's showing more fish. It's showing a break at 14 feet. I mean, what else could we ask for?
This is where the channel crosses the reservoir.
Yeah.
Goes into the shoreline over here.
Right. Right. The channel was running parallel with that shoreline, and then it makes a 90-degree bend and goes into the shoreline, and then starts to peter out. Okay. So we've marked both sides of the channel. The one marker's on one side of the channel, the other marker's closer to shore, but on the other side of the channel.
Mm-hmm.
So the channel's between those 2 markers going straight into shore.
Good.
And then it peters out.
So we're going to do some straight line passes now. Straight
line passes. The boats. There's another boat over there where we wanted to fish, but this is looking pretty good for right now. So we'll run a 200 with straight line passes. It showed on here that there's a 14-foot break. We won't hit it with the 200, but we'll just keep running the series. and see what we get.
Okay.
All right.
We're gonna try to hit that area about 14 feet that you
Well, we
noticed.
know there's something there at 14. I'm going to try to keep us in 9, but I've messed up. So you may bump. I'm not going to. I'm too deep now. So
we'll go back again.
yeah, we'll go back and do it again. This wasn't the world's best pass. It's straight, but it's too deep.
Out there.
There's a spot sticking out there as we made our straight pass. It went up to 6 feet. We got hard bottom here at 9 to 10 feet with our straight pass. We're 30 feet from shore. We're crossing the channel. We should start bumping here any second.
Okay.
And if we don't, we're just going to do the same pass with more line.
So we let out a little more line. We're going back.
Line. We were running 9 to 10 feet. You bumped a little bit. I bumped a little bit, but we didn't really walk the lure. So we're going to take the same pass with more line.
You say you really like this structure. What
well,
the
right
reasons?
now I like this whole situation. I haven't mapped it to the point where we know really where we think they're coming up.
Okay.
But I can tell you it's looking like it's on that side. There's deep water. It's hard.
It really goes fast. It's really steep.
It goes fast. We found another little finger along this shoreline right by this deep water.
Okay, we got a situation here where because of the cold front, you think the fish are down deep?
Well, whether they're down deep or not, the fact is you can see them, they're suspended all over poop. I mean, they are just all over the place. And, I mean, I'm not an authority on this, but my experience is that is true. I've had that happen more often than not, that after the cold front, they're out there, and I mean, they're relating to the structure, but they're not like hugging the bottom, ready and active to move. They're just sitting out there, and they're like, okay, I'm somewhat dormant. I've had the opposite happen though too. I've had it after a cold front where you come here and it's blank. There is nothing. We just had the cold front. I mean, it was last night at midnight or whatever. So, yeah, it's a shame. It'd be sure, you know. At least I guess the positive things, we know there's fish in this lake.
There's fish, right.
Now whether we can catch them or not, like Buck says, we want to catch the catchable fish. Well, these I don't think are the catchable fish right now.
Why don't you do a preliminary drawing of what you think is there at this point?
Yeah, well, you can hold off a second. And we had a bunch of weeds.
Okay.
All right. It also, as it came out, if I were to draw a particular contour, say a weed line, an 8-foot contour, she starts coming out wider and wider and wider and wider.
Okay.
And so what you end up doing is it's not as distinct. The muck stops about here, and we start getting into rock. And she comes in real close. If this was, say
this is an 8-foot contour approximately.
We'll call her about an 8-foot contour. And she comes out.
And there's a bar
here,
there?
Well, we got some pads, as we recall, and there was a tree situation here. And as we came in with our 8, she started pulling out like so.
Mm-hmm.
Now, we didn't map it much further than 8. Came back out, and as we typically found before, as you get near the end of this island, or whatever we want to call it, it starts to come out again. And then she swung in back and came in real close, and virtually all this is rock. This is all rock.
Okay.
This is all rock. I mean, this break line. This is where the muck's at.
Okay. Now, where did the channel come in?
Okay. The channel originally was out here, and then she started to swing in this way. Yeah, right around like so. Now, as far as it petering out, I don't know, but it was fairly broad out there, and she starts to get kind of narrow here. And when we measured it, maybe I didn't draw it properly here, but this is around 18 feet on both sides. Okay, so, I mean, it didn't go down much, maybe like 18.2 in here, but it's 17 here. So there's a fairly good channel. I mean, you can see it. It's just not very deep, all right?
Okay.
And this 17 feet stayed all the way here. So this is 17 to 18 feet right here.
Close to shore.
Close to shore. And that's what we found, is that then when we started to draw the other break lines out, say a 10-foot break line, she's pretty close over here. Then we got to a 12-foot break line, and it was like, okay, here we go. Then we got to the not break line, contour line. We got to a 14, and there we are. So as we took a look at it, as we came off in this direction here, looking this direction, it started to look like, okay, here comes the shoreline. She comes down over here and continues on. I was like, well, this isn't good. It's just coming straight on down. Lo and behold, we got to 12 to 14 feet.
We saw that on the
We saw
graph.
that. It actually went like so, and then she went right on down to the 16 to 17 feet.
So there was a hesitation, and that's what we
and that's what we saw.
Fish.
Now, we also found that there's all kinds of stuff out here. I mean, there's humps, there's stumps. There was a lot of, on the graph, you can see there was a lot of stuff that had a grayscale, which means that it's solid. Stumps don't generally do that. And if you recall, when we first came out here, I noticed that there were some boulders and crap sitting here. And I said, well, they probably didn't stop there. They continued on rolling down or whatever. On this side here, we also found ledge rock.
Right.
So what's happened here, I suspect, is that for whatever reasons, over some period of time, ledge rock or some rocks have fallen down here, and that's what we're seeing. You got hung on some. When you got hung on them, and when I got hung on them, if we went back and pulled the lures, it came right off.
Okay,
Well, when you get caught on timber, it doesn't usually happen that way, and usually with timber, when you get hung, you can feel it's woodish, it kind of gives.
Right.
But when we get hung on the rock, you get on the backside, you just pull it right out, and it came off. So there's rocks here in the form of breaks. So that's why I'm still excited about this whole area over here. That was where that boat knocked us off the...
Yeah, so you want to...
Yeah, we would have worked this. You caught a fish there. We would have continued working that. There was 15 foot of water out here. I mean, not as nice as 17 or 18, but hey, it's all that's in the area. So I wanted to work this. I want to map this. That's where this guy keeps coming out.
Right.
If this wasn't here, if this particular bar wasn't here, we would probably find a bar here and try to work this one here. But because this one's closer to the channel, I want to work it in that there may be some relationship that if this is steep and this is winter structure, who knows, this could be where they go for the summer or vice versa. So this composite here, from my point of view, that's the year-round area. You know, bass could live and die here.
Winter, summer,
summer, the whole 9 yards. And since we're right in close to spawning and post-spawning, who knows? They're coming up here, they're spawning there. By the way, that's the other thing for spawning areas. We haven't mapped this out thoroughly, but this could easily be a spawning area. It could be a little bit of a flatter situation that still crests at like 8 or 9 feet. So, you know, the water's warm, the eggs hatch, and all that kind of good stuff.
Sure.
But the fact is they could be using this actually as a spawn, even though they come up from this channel here and go over there to spawn. So now the spawn, they told me it happened like a week or two ago or something. And so the fish could be recovering from that. But nevertheless, this has, from what I know, this has the situation that says fish could live and die here.
So what are you going to do to be able to come back here?
Well, I'm going to try to find something on the shore, whether it's just whether it's a shoreline sighting or not, I don't really care. If I can find something on the shore that gives this away, I mean, there may be just some outcroppings of rocks. Remember, we had some big rocks over here, and I might be able to rationalize and say, okay, it's 100 feet this way, and there's a big rock here, and it's 100 feet this way. Because you only have to narrow it down within a few feet, 50 feet. Then when you come through...
You can always find it.
Yeah, you can always find it. But like right now, if I tried to describe this to somebody who'd never been here, they won't, it'll take them a half hour to find that. Where if I say, okay, look for the great big rock and it's 50 feet to the east or 50 feet to the west, or it's between a big rock here and a big rock there.
Right.
Or something else. We'll look at the shoreline, find something.
Sounds good. Now you said you noticed that this is not a long bar.
Right.
And what did Terry say about that?
Well, when I said something to him, I said, well, what part of it do we fish? What about the summer part? What about the winter part? And when I was fishing with him before, it was like the end of April and May, and he's like, well, what difference is it? You can fish both parts of it. I mean, you don't have to tell the fish that in May he's going to be on the winter part, and on June he's going to be on the summer part. Since they're so close, your presentation of lures can cover both parts of it, and let the fish tell you where he's at. Also, on some of the shorter bars, the winter part of it is steeper, and on the summer structure, they're going to come up on the steeper part of the summer structure, which is near the winter structure. So it turns out that the two bars, or the two parts of the structure, are actually related by the deep water and the steepness of it. Okay. Now, if that makes sense, but if you got a bar here and you got deep water here, that's the side of the bar they'll possibly come up on, and here's the winter structure. So you fish both because they're right there.
Okay.
So that's kind of what we have here.
Yeah, right.
He's going to see something 20 or 30 feet.
The movement distance is only going to be as far as he can see.
The movement between stopping points. And then, because I asked Frank that, I said, well, how far, I had this structure 300 feet long, and Frank was like, it ain't going to work. And I was like, well, come on, Frank, are you sure you know what you're talking about and all that? And he said, Bob, Mr. Perry said that the distance between stopping points for the fish probably won't be any further than what he can see. And so if you think about it, underwater, he can't see 300 feet. He can't see 100 feet between stopping points.
Good watercolor, he can't even see 1 foot.
Right, now maybe he, like you said, maybe he has better vision than we do, and I can't debate that, but it's not 300 feet. And so if you take that back, then you're looking for breaks or break lines that are separated by what you think the fish can see. And he certainly can't see a casting distance. I mean, I don't know if that's 60
So that's a long distance for him to move.
So it's less than that. So you're talking probably closer to boat lengths, 1 or 2 boat lengths.
Oh. As
opposed to, well, I found the channels over here, and and the football field or 100 yards away is the shoreline, and it isn't going to make it. That it's taken a while to settle in. That's taken more than it's taken a lot of rethinking on my part to settle in.
Yeah, right. Me too. So, okay, good point. So here we're fishing Sugar Point.
Well, we're going to at least look at it. Here's Sugar Point. Here's the road that comes down. It's fairly steep. The road continues on, goes right across the channel, and all this area here is fishable. Might be a little bit of boat traffic, but we can probably fish this side of Sugar Point without too much trouble. Fairly steep shoreline. There are some weeds. We just took a quick look at it. There's some weeds. Looks pretty sandy. But anyhow, we're right there. There's the road. You can turn around later and show them where the road's at. And it goes across, and the channel is just about splits these 2 points. So it's about equidistant, but it's pretty steep all the way. What we can do is see if there's any breaks coming off this point, break lines. It's steep, but if we can find any two contours that are either closer together or further apart than the others, they'll apply.
So there's a roadbed and a bridge down there.
Yeah.
The 2 points in the river channel. Right.
In the river channel. Yeah. And the channel here is a little bit more distinct than it was when we were back up in this. Here it was almost impossible to find.
Yeah, here it's really...
Yeah, we went down over here. It was pretty easy to find, but this one here is pretty definite also.
Okay.
Be able to show
here's the roadbed up here.
Yeah.
That's an old roadbed. Must be a Civil War roadbed or something.
Yeah, it's pretty old. And you can see that wooden... Something stuck in there that's man-made in the water.
Then we go across the lake. And the other point over here with a flag on it is the other side.
It should be to the left of the flag. The road didn't come up on shore right by the flag. It actually paralleled shore for a while. There's a couple roads here.
Okay.
Yeah, it actually paralleled shore out away from the shoreline for a little bit before it came up. She comes down.
Yeah, that roadbed really comes down good there.
I don't think it would be Civil War-ish, or you'd have secondary growth there.
Yeah, that's true.
There's really no trees, so I'd say that this might be one of those WPA deals for back in the 30s or something.
Yeah.
There may have been a road there, and they knocked, they just basically abandoned it when they made the reservoir. So I'd say that's 40 to 50 years worth of growth, not 100 years.
Okay. I guess I can see. Yeah, that's the road.
That's the road. That's 16 feet there. But as we go to shore, depending on how close we go that way, in feet over there, it's breaking at 0 feet.
Okay, now that's the road over there, and it's coming down. How do you describe it coming?
It's coming down parallel with this point, but it's going into the deepest water in the area. And the edge of the road, the edge over here that falls off, is a break.
Okay.
And it's like that perfect bar, that perfect structure that Buck talks about, because over there it breaks 6 feet above the water. Here it breaks at the water. When they get out here, it broke at 16 feet below the water. Someplace along here, there's a break that happens to be the break elevation that the fish want to use.
Yeah.
Okay. And so it's hard because it's a road. Fish can spawn on it. It's flat. I mean, by flat, I mean it's not a horizontal flat. It's going up at an angle, and it's hard, so they can use it for a spawning season. The edge of it is very steep. As they cross it, we've got this point over here, and it's extremely steep. So we've got fish that can come up at this end over here in the winter. They can come up the side of the road anytime they want. In the summertime, they can spawn on it at any elevation, all the way down to 24 feet, at whatever elevation they happen to, or depth that they want to happen to spawn at. And it's hard and it's clean. So to me, it's like this is as close to the year-round conditions that we can get. We got
so your more gradual sloping structure itself is the road.
That's right.
Okay.
That's right, and it's clean.
And it's clean.
And it's got a break on the end of it that changes elevation from 0 at the shoreline to almost, well, we were at 16 feet a minute ago. It's probably like 22 feet over here someplace. So they can come up it wherever they please based on their movement patterns, and they can move along the break, or they can scatter onto the top of the road.
Now, how would that be related to this point here we're fishing?
Well, the thing is if we use that as summer and potentially spawn, what we've got over here, the road is connected to this point. It physically was
part of it.
It was part of it. I mean, that's how the people drove down here to get across the river or whatever. So at some point, the road gets down to the deepest water in the area. But over here, we've also got a very steep shoreline. So they could theoretically not use the road in the wintertime and just go right up the steep shoreline. We tried to troll this, and you're a boat length away and you're in 20 feet. You move in one boat length, you're in 4 feet. So that's the winter structure coming up here.
Yeah.
The road's laying over here, so they can use that road for summer, or they can use the road for spawn. What connects the two is the break on the side, break line on the side of the road coming across. I mean, it's almost something you can almost draw with your hands. Here's the road, here's this point, Here's the edge of the road getting deeper and deeper and deeper. Where the road and the edge of the road meet, that's an ever-increasing break line. Where the road finally hits the deepest water in the area and loses definition, that's where the point comes in. That's the steepest area. So my feeling is they could come up here in the winter, come up on the road in the summer and in the spawn.
Okay.
Now,
well,
whether it's true or not.
Yeah, well, that we'd have to find out from other people, but at least we've given an explanation of what is here.
And to me, this is one that I like, you know, if my interpretation isn't right, meaning that, forget about whether there's fish or not, but if my interpretation's wrong, I want to know, because I use that same type of interpretation to try to find the year-round locations for largemouth bass. That you need the summer, you need the winter structure, you need the spawning area. And one thing else that seems to always be important is that when you find man-made structures like a road that cross the channel, boy, you got to pay attention, because man didn't plan on designing it that way, but frequently they show you the complete year-round structure patterns. I mean, the structure situations, that just the way they're done. Causeways, dams, roadways, bridges. So often, to me at least, they have the complete set of structure situations that the bass need to live year-round. Now, if I could only be more effective in getting the darn bass off the structure, then we'd have it made.
Now, how would you fish a situation like this?
Well, we're back to the same thing, kind of like what we were doing. We did straight line trolling passes over here, and that's kind of how we found out where the road was at. I'm back to, you know, I'd run the series just like we did before, but, you know, it's kind of interesting because, Chase, you and I were working on that other side.
Right.
And except for the fact that there's a very steep shoreline over there, there's nothing like that, nothing like this over there.
Yeah.
And so, you know, I think in Buck's writings he calls it shoot the works. I think, you know, I think this is one where you'd shoot the works. It's not that big. Yeah, we troll it to make sure we got our speeds, or the higher speeds, but I'm not so sure you couldn't come up with 4 or 5 casting positions. And a real simple one that works very well for me, and that is right on the road. You can park yourself on the road at 2 feet deep and fan cast it. Then you go down to 4 feet or 8 feet deep and park.
Get both sides of it.
And you just keep coming on down the road, you know, and you just keep fan casting, making sure you're going over the edge of the road over here, because that's where that break line's
where it
at.
goes down.
But you can just keep coming down the road. The only problem is that you're limited. You know, you get to 8 or 10 feet of depth under the boat, you can't cast the spoon plugs much deeper, you know what I mean? And we got 20 foot of water here, so it takes a long cast. Eventually, when you park the boat in 12 foot of water, you're pretty much back to our silver buddy areas and stuff like that. It's getting harder. You know, it's getting harder to get the spoon plugs to crank up that level.
Right.
But that doesn't mean you can't troll it.
I mean, that's true.
We just troll with the 200, and, you know, you made it all the way around. It's not too difficult. So.
Okay.
But I don't know, we have to troll this to map it. I mean, you could draw this. You know, give me a sheet of cross section.
Yeah, let's draw it.
Yeah, it's going to be the same cross section pretty much all the time, except that what I've got here is this is what it looks like above the water. Here's this ridge. Here's the road. It's above the water. Here's your water level. Okay. Okay, and so you can see the road here. Now, as I get further along this point, all right, then what ends up happening is the water level is now above the road. And so what I've got is something along these lines. And you also notice that this gets a little bit broader. In our situation we have here, the road is starting to separate from the ridge. It's getting away from it. And that's not abnormal. I mean, they're not going to run the road down the actual ridge. They want to start to bring it off to the side. Now, some things that happen, if I draw one more, it goes like this. And here's the water. And what it ends up happening, when the road gets far enough away from the ridge, they end up putting a drainage ditch here. Even if they don't put one in, the runoff will cause drainage to occur there. Okay, and so what we've got is, and maybe I didn't draw it properly, but let's just say this depth is 8 feet, and let's just say this depth is 12 feet. You start to see that this is a break line. That's a break line. Well, what do we got? Here we have a break line above the water. If I drew another one in, we'll have a break line right at the water. Then we have it at 4 feet, then at 8, then at 12. It keeps going down. This ridge didn't lose its definition at all. But what ends up happening is after a while, the road goes like this. And it's down. And here's the water. So there still is a break line, but pretty soon the road ends up being just a couple feet above the basin of where we're at. And if we kept on going out here far enough, eventually you'll see, well, here's the channel, the actual river channel. And so as long as the road is slightly above, because this wasn't a big river channel, it was only about a couple feet deep, as long as the road is somewhat above the river channel, they don't worry about it flooding. The drainage that we talked about becomes more minimal, because there's not much of a difference in elevation between the road, the basin, and the channel. And so what you've got again is this brake line. You actually start to pick up another brake line, but you can follow this brake line all the way down. You control that baby. Now if I'm a fish and I'm starting to move, I could follow that brake line from, say this is 20 feet, I just follow it up to 12 feet, as far as I want. At any time I want, I could start to come across here and scatter. When there's no longer a ditch, my guess would be you've got a situation where they could just spawn. They could just spawn on this flat. Now, if you were to actually look at this, the road kind of looks like this. If we were to look down the end view of it. So if I was looking this way, I'd actually see this road going up and up, straight up along the ridge. Follow me? I could look at the end of it and I'd say, yeah, I could drive right up this baby. Just keep right on getting shallower and shallower and shallower, and I could fall off the edge. Well, think about it. This is pretty close to what you've got when you go down a boat ramp. You're going down and down and down, and if you were to go off the edge, you might fall right into a channel. And so that to me is one of those that Buck's book says this is like the perfect bar, because the brake line continually changes depth all the way down to the deepest water in the area.
You can get to the deep water in a hurry, any place along it.
Yeah, if I was here and I had to get in a hurry, I could actually go down here. Remember, this is then like a flat, and I could follow the base brake line all the way back to the channel. If I hadn't migrated this far, I could do it quicker. If I was more active, I could be up here, and if I was active up here and didn't like it, I could follow my brake line all the way back. So they got two paths back to the water.
Very good. Well, you know a lot about this because you're an engineer, right? Okay. We have probably on this riprap crab orchard, we've got a water moccasin, I believe. Now let's see. I think this is him right.
You don't think you can jump 15 feet, do you?
Now, don't get too close.
I understand. That's why I'm asking you. Do you think you can jump 15 feet?
I don't think so. I hope not.
Can you get it with a silver buddy?
I got him on this. I got him on the Zoom. Now, don't you go casting a silver buddy to him.
Water moccasin.
Wow. Is he looking at us?
It appears his head is faced right at me. That's why I asked how far can he jump.
Do they leap?
I don't know. I don't think they can go 15 feet.
Okay. He's there. Yeah, he's watching us.
What you don't realize, Chase, is he's the bait.
Oh, he's the bait for
There's
the
another one
for
just
the
waiting
bigger
for you
one.
to watch him. Now, you want me to show you how close you had me to him?
No, you don't have. Okay, here you go. Now, this is the same bar that we were talking about.
Only it's a top view.
A top view, okay.
And so, regardless of what the contours are, you can see on this side here, they're fairly close together. And then they come out further. Now, I'll draw one more in there. Bring it kind of further out. And the channel's out here someplace.
Okay.
And the trick is there's a road alongside this. So what you end up having happen is that it comes out a little bit. There's always a little ditch alongside the road. And the contour for the road would then do something like that. The next one would come along similar. A little dip for the ditch. Comes out, goes over, and comes back again. So I'll do the third one here. A little ditch comes across, and they come back. So rather than draw too many more, you can see here this is steep, but then it comes over the end of the bar, which may be somewhat summer structure. What you have here, this is flat, but it's gradually going up, and it's steep over here. So if I drew another one in, go ahead, and if I drew another one in here like so, came over and came back, what you end up having happen is that the fish can use this area here as steep structure, they can use this area as steep structure, and they can use this area here as flat structure. So if the fish were out here someplace, they could use this area here for spawning.
That's the road coming up.
That's the road coming up. If you recall, you took pictures, you were faced over here looking this way, and you could actually see the road as it got above water. Well, just assume it keeps going below the water, and you see based on the broad spacing between the contours, this is more of a flat. But any fish that's up here, and by the way, since it's a road, it's clean and it's hard, otherwise it would have eroded away. So what it says is that the fish could use this for spawning, and they can keep coming up as shallow as they want to until they get to the point where they say, well, the water's warm enough or whatever it is they need for spawning. But at any given time, should something come that's unstable, like Terry says, a little flick of their tail and boom, they're back down in the deep water. Now, in the wintertime, they may not have to come up here. They can come up over this way, and they can end up coming up on this steep structure with the same effect. It was just a little flick of the tail. They're right on back down in deep water. So back to what Terry had told me before, where normally we seem to have some tendency to always want to look at the end of the bar situation. In this case over here, the side of the bar has far greater potential because it's got steep areas, and flat areas that are hard and clean. So, you know, just looking at the overall picture, this could be a complete situation where the fish have spawning season, winter season, summer structure that they can just drop off of very quick, with quick access into the deep water.
And then you mentioned that if that road spreads away from the bar.
Right,
so
okay. If we did that, and let's say there was another contour here, what's going to end up happening is that at some point there'll still be the ditch, points up this way, but the road starts to get further and further away. And so you take another situation, it can come out here, ditch, comes back up to the road, and finally comes way away. So in effect, the road is really the path to the shallows. This point has very little to do with it. Also, as this road gets further away from the point, its depth is getting pretty close to the channel depth itself. And so pretty soon you find that the road itself may even contain the deepest water in the area, simply because it's only a foot or two above the channel depth. Now we don't know what happened down here. According to the map, there could have been a bridge of some type. You know, we never really got down to that. If I were to actually draw in what the road would look like, it would be something like this. Also, it's not uncommon for the road to separate itself from this point, because as it gets deeper and deeper and deeper, they want to have a path. The engineers designing it want to have a path for this drainage to get back down here. If they start to run this very close to the point, it'll start to erode the road and eventually could undermine the road. So they may separate this road from the point so that the drainage that runs off the road on the one side can get down to the creek.
Okay.
If they don't do that, then they get stuck having to put a pipe culvert in, which again can be a good break. You can have a head wall and all that kind of stuff. But that costs money, so it's a lot easier simply to design the road to separate itself a little bit from the point so that the drainage has a place to go here. The water on this side of it just, again, before it was flooded, the water that would fall on this road would just fall off the edge here. That saves the expense of a culvert. But you always want to look for these because it's an outstanding break. I mean, and no matter what they did when they flooded the reservoir, they never take these guys out. And this could be a concrete head wall, it could be a pipe or whatever. So this is always, you know, worthwhile to check.
Yeah, great.
Okay.
Okay, thanks.